headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
We won't agree on everything, but I'll tell you what, when I hold up a picture of Minnie Mouse, who on this side is wearing what can only be described as an extremely provocative outfit of a dress and a bow in her hair, which, you know, it's doing things to me that I can't describe. Now that, thankfully, they've managed to cover her up now, she looks like she now lives in North Korea. She's wearing sort of jumpsuit so that you can't see any of those nasty parts of her body that might inflame you. I mean,
yeah, isn't it insane, Mike?
Cobblers.
I mean, she doesn't quite look like she lives in North Korea because she looks quite well fed. But isn't it insane that, you know, that we're having to cover up cartoon characters now? It's almost like the Taliban.
It really is.
The Taliban bringing the cultural revolution.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's like the old Victorians, isn't it? They used to put sort of curtains around tables so you couldn't see the table legs in case it could be too excited.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. If you tell men not to masturbate, then they're going to get so horny they get turned on by table legs and M&Ms and Minnie Mouse.
Right.
No, I think it's a real shame. Minnie Mouse was obviously not a sexualized character.
Wouldn't have thought so.
Jessica Rabbit, on the other hand.
Well, now you're talking.
Pure sex. But yeah, Minnie Mouse, absolutely not a sexualized character. So it seems to be completely unnecessary. And to me, it shows that the wokeists who did it are really, are thinking things that normal people aren't thinking. Nobody's looking at Minnie Mouse and thinking, you know what I mean?
Well, and if they are, they probably should be in some kind of secure unit, But we've got Stella McCartney. I mean, they're both, Disneyland Paris have put a tweet out boasting that Stella McCartney has designed her very first pantsuit and it's gorgeous. Well, what a waste of money. I mean, I could have done that for her. Why do you need Stella McCartney, for heaven's sake?
Yeah. I mean, and also pantsuits, they're the burden of the left. Hillary Clinton, I think she would have been elected if she hadn't constantly worn pantsuits.
Yes, or fallen down while she was trying to get into a van. That didn't help her either. But I mean, it is mad, isn't it? I mean, we've got the story in the front of the Sun today, and because you take a different line on a lot of comedy. I was saying the other day, there's nobody when Barry Fryer died yesterday. Cryer, sorry. There was no sort of modern day comedians coming out and saying, "Oh, he was my inspiration," because he was genuinely a funny guy. He was actually able to write stuff for Kenny Everett. He was able to write stuff for Walker and Wise. He was never the focal point of anything, but he was genuinely quite funny. Most of the comedians now are just not very funny, are they?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that's kind of unfair. There's a lot of funny comedians out there, but they don't get airtime on the BBC. They don't get airtime on the main channels. They're really suppressed by the industry. And all the huge, global comedians at the moment, they're all American. Yeah. So you've got Bill Burr, Chris Rock. People like that are straddling the globe and selling millions and millions and millions of tickets, and getting huge audiences on Netflix. But in the UK, for some reason, the industry thinks all we want to hear is real wishy-washy, namby-pamby, self-deprecating comedy instead of the iconoclastic, stadium strutting stuff that comes out of America. Yeah. And anybody that doesn't toe the woke line is called. And obviously, comedians should be questioning everything. They should be questioning power and authority. Yeah. And at the moment, the woke left have the cultural power and authority. They control all the institutions, the BBC, most newspapers, the pretty much entirety of BBC comedy output is left wing. Of all the comedians who openly have a political position, 99% are left wing. Yes, and 1% are Jeff Norcott. There's like a huge.
And it's very, I mean, they're all very happy to make fun of Donald Trump and the man who's not being named on my show today, who happens to be the Prime Minister. I've decided to ban his name just for the hell of it. But I watched, as you may have seen, my little clip about concrete earlier in the year, last year. Yeah. And that appeared on almost every comedy show. Have I Got News for You? It was on Frankie Boyle's show. It was on the Big Fat Quiz of the Year. It was on The Last Leg. None of them, to me, actually made it any funnier than it already was. They just didn't get it. And because I work for Talk Radio, they thought, this is a good guy to target because he's obviously stupid, he's thick, he's a Brexiteer, he's an idiot, he's probably racist, he's probably a bigot. Yeah. And it just, I was hoping that they were going to make fun of me in a much cleverer way, but they didn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's very hard. People talk about punching up and punching down. Yeah. But woke culture never realises that they're the ones that are punching down. They're the elites. They're the highly educated, rich people who have enough time to sit around and ponder about things like pronouns and what, all these infinite numbers of genders and sexualities and identities and intersectionalities, and read all these big tracts of university text that apparently we all need to read to become good people. So they're the elites. They're the elite, and they've developed. wokeism is really just it's a new class system. It's an etiquette system that you have to obey, or you're cast out from the court. Yeah. So
I mean, you mentioned university tracks there. I mean, universities now are some of the worst places. I mean, when I was at university, we used to see people like John Cooper Clarke and really, really funny, alternative comedians who were kind of emerging out of the punk rock era. That's how old I am. But I presume for you, the university is the last place you go now.
Yes, it's a real shame. I think it's a class thing. Comedy used to be a working class pursuit, and people would start off in the working men's clubs, and doing university tours. Used to be. You talk to some older comedians, they'd love doing it because students were up for anything. They wanted it wild and confrontational and abrasive. And now, of course, the student gigs have completely changed. They make you sign waivers, making sure you're not going to mention certain topics. So you're so constricted as a comedian, because that anybody who goes to the length of making you sign a waiver, making you sign a performance agreement, is going to be watching you to get offended, specifically to get offended, because people want to get offended. The way they can get social credit, the way they can get social kudos, is by getting offended at some imaginary racism or homophobia or transphobia that they see. So people come. There was a complaint email sent to a comedy club that I perform at, one of the ones that still books me. So I did a show there in July, my solo show. So people were just coming to see my solo show. They weren't coming to see a mixed random bill. It was my specific solo show, and I performed there in October. Somebody after the October show, wrote an email to the comedy club saying, I came to see Leo's show in July and it was horrific and offensive. And I came back to see it again in October and it was still horrific and offensive. Can you ban him, please?
Oh, my God.
Why don't you just stop coming to see my show? There's other comedians you can watch.
I mean, have these people got no sense of perspective? Calling a comedy show horrific. It's just unbelievable. It's ridiculous. Lots of things are horrific. Comedy isn't really horrific. Get a grip of yourself. I'm looking at a story today, University of Chester putting a trigger warning on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, saying that studying the J.K. Rowling book can lead to difficult conversations about gender, race, sexuality, class and identity. I'm sorry, I don't look at Dumbledore and wonder whether he's wearing ladies' underwear underneath what his clothes. I just don't. I don't care what Dumbledore wears.
You just hope it's there.
I do.
And you get on with your day.
I do. But
it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And also, saying like, trigger warning, this book could lead to conversations. Yeah. Maybe we should be having some conversations.
Yeah, that's
maybe
not a good
these
idea,
conversations shouldn't be stifled. I think all genuinely progressive ideas throughout human history, all of them, like the women's rights, LGBTQ rights, civil rights, all these ideas were hugely offensive to swathes of the population. Should we have not had those conversations? No, obviously we needed to have those conversations. Some people needed to be upset. We needed to progress society. So it seems bizarre to me that people who call themselves progressives now think that, we shouldn't be having conversations. We've somehow reached, this absolute, apex of ideology and opinion that can't be changed.
Well, it's I seem to remember there was a story a little while back, and I think it was it was Penguin, I think, in Canada, who were due to release Jordan Peterson's new book, which obviously will make them a bucket load of money. But all the people who worked there asked for a meeting, a mass sort of town hall type meeting, to say they weren't comfortable with him being published by the book publisher, and you kind of go, well, you people aren't important, right? He's important. He's an author. He writes a book that millions of people are going to read. You just work in the mail room of Penguin. Shut up or leave,
Yeah, and also be uncomfortable. It's fine to be uncomfortable sometimes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't have to constantly. Not everything is made specifically for you.
No.
You can read a different book. You can read something that's made for you. You can read something you like. There's plenty of people who want to read Jordan Peterson. And they should be allowed to read it. It's not going to set anybody's hair on fire.
I try really hard, Leo. I don't know about you. I try really hard not to go on about this a lot, because you end up sort of becoming a slight parody of yourself, going, I'm just angry about everything. I'm not really angry about it. I just think it's really stupid, and I couldn't leave this one alone. Yeah,
and also, it's the sort of death by 1,000 cuts. We look at all these little things, and we think, oh, this is ridiculous, but it's a tsunami of cultural change. It's like the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and that didn't end too well. And I can see this. We don't know where we're heading. We're already destroying people's lives and livelihoods. Like, look at Lawrence Fox, who's completely very happy, very, very, very successful acting career. And then
he went on Question Time.
Went on Question Time, expressed an opinion that is pretty reasonable and shared by a lot of people around the country, and should be given representation and should be able to ask and argued against. And people can say, this is why you're wrong, and explain it to him. Instead, he's just cancelled. His livelihood is taken away from him, and I think that's absolutely disgusting.
Good talk. Hot talk.
Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.